Yeah, I get they start calling me Leatherface and stuff, but Serge can't talk too much. We got him on a trading block right now, so whoever wants him, let us know. We're trying to trade Serge.
Now, Perk, obviously Serge is obviously not on the trading block. He was kidding around, which I think is funny because, look, Kawhi is supposed to be a fun guy, right? That's what we've heard about him. Mm-hmm. But the mask, whose mask? Who wore it better? The all-time mask man, Richard Hamilton, or Kawhi Leonard?
Oh, it's Richard Hamilton. He set the trend. Like, that matched him. When you thought of Rich knew that his mask, when he had that mask on, he was going to be on the tap. I don't know what that was Kawhi had on, but whatever it was he had on, he was on a mission. The mask worked because I haven't seen Kawhi this intense in a long time. And he's a phenomenal basketball player. But, George, I guess it was the mask, but he was on a mission last night. He was on a mission. So if he's going to play like this, wearing that ugly mask, then if I'm Ty Lue, I'm going to tell him, you got to keep this on.
Yeah, I'm with you wholeheartedly. And, yeah, Rip Hamilton is the all-time masked man in the NBA. Although we were talking about LeBron earlier. Remember, LeBron wore that black mask back in the day with the Heat when he busted his nose that one time. He looked like, something out of like a cartoon type movie, like a superhero movie. But anyway, let's move on to the game, Perk. The Clippers are now 4-1, including a win over the Lakers and LeBron James, including a win over Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets. And now the Blazers, 3 of the top teams in the Western Conference. They do have that 51-point loss to Dallas, which is their only blemish. But what kind of statement did the Clippers make last night?
They made a huge statement with all the riffraff that was going on between the Blazers and the Clippers. I thought the Clippers took this game personal and they wanted to send a message, and they did just that. From the jump, they set the tone. They approached this game like it was a playoff game. They were into the Blazers' airspace. They were contesting shots, making them miss, not hoping that they miss. And on the other end, they were attacking. They were attacking downhill. They were getting out, playing with great pace. They were tied on the string. And this is the Clippers team that we have been wanting to see. They look fun. They was fun to watch last night. You could tell Ty Lue is preaching team ball because they're passing up good shots to get great shots. This is the Clippers team that I've been expecting, and they looked phenomenal last night. I got to give credit where credit's due.
I'll say this. I thought you brought up a great point about Kawhi specifically, just kind of his demeanor. I think the team in general this season has a different demeanor so far, Perk. Outside of that one ridiculous game against the Mavericks, they look like they are all business so far this season. Is that a fair assessment?
That is a fair assessment, and especially Paul George. He has been playing phenomenal right now. Like, if you had to take 5 guys that will be in the MVP conversation for the first week of the NBA season, Paul George's name should be mentioned. And he's doing a lot of things. I'm watching his playmaking ability. We all know that he could put the ball in the basket, but the way that he's using the pick and roll, throwing lobs to Big Zubac at the rim, and facilitating for others. When you look at guys like Nicholas Batum, who seems like to me he is having fun, and I'm watching him play. We haven't seen him play at this level in a long time. He's defending at a high level. He's knocking down shots. He's causing havoc up in the paint. Pat Bev is doing what Pat Bev do. It's just, hey, they wanted Ty Lue. Ty Lue is there, and it seemed like a big change. I hate to say it.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think there's any question. The Batum thing is going to be big for them, too. So far, to your point, he has played his role perfectly.
But I'm going to go on. We're going to go on here. Coming up in the show on his 36th birthday, we're going to ask how long LeBron can continue to be at or near his prime. You'll want to hear Perk's response on this one. First, though, it's just one game. We're hearing that a lot around the NBA right now as teams struggle to find their footing after the shortest offseason in history. Hey, so we lost by 20, won by 40, whatever. It's just one game. Which is true, except one game doesn't mean what it used to. In this shortened season, every outing is one of 72, not one of 82, which is why when, say, Ja Morant is projected to be out 3 to 5 weeks with an ankle injury, it's all that much more devastating for a team like Memphis. It's also why, in Philadelphia, even just the second week of the season, it feels like there's an invisible James Harden-shaped ticking clock over the Sixers' heads. Will Daryl Morey and Doc Rivers be better than their predecessors at putting Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons in position to flourish together? Or at some point, some number of games in, will it be time to push the button on a train for a certain bearded gentleman from Houston? The Sixers did seem to do the right things this offseason, making moves to create more spacing for their two stars, and they said the right things in training camp. Ben Simmons told reporters that former teammate Josh Richardson, quote, was definitely right when Richardson said there wasn't enough accountability in Philadelphia last year, and that since Doc arrived in town, Simmons said, quote, it's been great to see that and see guys be accountable for certain things and come here ready with a different mindset, unquote. Of course, those are all nice words, but now that the season has officially started, the games are what count. And last night against the Raptors, things did not start out well for the Sixers. Philadelphia trailed for most of the first half, shooting 29% from the field, just 22% from three. Meanwhile, on the other end of the floor, Toronto was getting so many good looks from three, you wondered if the Sixers arena staff had accidentally left a bunch of welcome mats out beyond the arc. There was also Kyle Lowry back in his hometown doing Kyle Lowry things. Yet slowly, as the game ground on, Philadelphia pushed its way through. Tobias Harris and Seth Curry both found their shots, combining for 18 points in the third quarter alone. Embiid persisted through an injury scare to finish with 29 points, 16 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 blocks, with a 14 of 16 performance at the line to boot. And the Sixers defense buckled down hard, holding Toronto scoreless for nearly 4 minutes in the final frame to turn the game for good. Now, this wasn't officially the game winner, but it felt like it. A nice Curry three on a pass from Embiid, where Curry was so wide open thanks to a triple team on Joel. The Sixers' updated roster construction working exactly like it's supposed to there. So what does it all mean? Should we be thinking this is finally the year that Embiid has a legit place in the MVP discussion? Should we be worried about Simmons still being predictable in the half court? Or should we be noting his defensive versatility as a marker of the Sixers being able to eke out more gritty wins like this one? Or should we not draw any conclusions at all? Sure, it was only just one game. But in this city, in this season, that means more than it ever has. So, Perk, seeing as how that was just one game last night, they're just a few games in, are you buying the Sixers roster tweaks so far?
I am buying it. The thing that the Sixers were missing was spacers and guys that could shoot the lights out of the ball. You look at a guy like Danny Green. You look at a guy like Seth Curry, who I think just get props for shooting the ball. But, Rachel, he's a hell of a basketball player. He's an underrated defender. He's an underrated playmaker. And then when you look at the structure of their team, just think about this. Tobias Harris was having one of the best seasons of his career with the Clippers under Doc Rivers. And Joel Embiid, I love what Doc Rivers is going to do for Joel, and what he's doing for Joel is he's holding them accountable, not on the offensive end, but on the defensive end. And it's a ripple effect. So when you can hold Joel accountable, not Ben Simmons is saying, you know what, I could play for Doc. I could go out here and lay it all out on the line. I love the way this team is structured. I think they're moving in a great direction. And last year at this time, if they were down at halftime like they were to the Raptors, I don't know if we would have seen this same fight. But since Doc Rivers is there, one thing I know about Doc, his halftime speeches are going to be on point, and he's also going to get guys to rally back and play together, and that's what we saw yesterday from the 76ers.
You know, from the start, when Daryl Morey and Doc Rivers got together there, they made it very clear that this was going to be a Joel Embiid-focused team. Everything that they've said and done has pointed to that. They haven't gone away from Ben Simmons, but they have really played to Joel. And those roster tweaks that you mentioned, Rachel, were about Joel. And if you watched this game last night, they ran their offense through the end of the game, through Joel Embiid, with high pick and rolls. In their opener, where they had a 10-point comeback victory over Washington in the fourth quarter, they ran that whole fourth quarter offense through Embiid in the post. And, you know, that is really what this is about. This is about giving Joel Embiid what he wants, which is the ball in his hands and control to be the kind of MVP candidate that he thinks he can be. The other thing is, Doc Rivers is putting no pressure on Ben Simmons on three-pointers. He has not taken a three-pointer yet. Last year, remember Brett Brown publicly announcing,
yes,
Ben, we want you to shoot a three every game. Doc has not done that at all, and the roster changes allow him to take that pressure off of Ben. And this approach so far has him 3-1, and then the loss was when Embiid sat.
Do you feel like there is a point where they can see enough before the trade deadline that this is the group?
All right, time for make miss, make precision. LeBron working out of the post, hooks a no-look pass to KCP in the corner. Nick, how many guys in the league can make that pass?
The guy is unbelievable, George. I'd say like one.
Yeah.
Because every time he makes one of these passes, you go, yep, that's the guy who can do it. He never gets enough credit for the passing ability that he does have.
Perk?
Well, I believe it's two. It's three guys that can make that pass.
Okay.
It's LeBron, it's Luka, and it's playoff Rondo. We cannot leave Rondo out of this. There's three guys in the league that can make those type of passes.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, next, miss, beef. Third quarter, Bucks Heat. Giannis and Chris Middleton having a little heated conversation over a defensive breakdown earlier in the quarter. And then on the next possession, Middleton finds Giannis for the alley-oop right here. Take a look. Boom. Perk, is that an encouraging sign for Milwaukee as they hash things out?
Absolutely. You don't want guys over there sharing popsicles together, George. You want guys getting on one another because it shows one thing. Guess what? They care about winning. They care about messing up on on the defensive end, and I love that. If you care, that shows a lot.
A little fight in a relationship isn't bad, guys. It's a sign of growth and health, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, wholeheartedly, no doubt. All right, next, make authority. Staying in Miami, check out this dunk on the break here by Kendrick Nunn. Kana with the stuff. And then back to San Antonio where DeMar DeRozan gets way up. Hello. Perk, which one was better?
DeMar DeRozan, because here's why. You dunked on Montrezl Harrell, a guy who talks a lot of noise, brings a lot of tenacity, a guy who finished top 10 in protecting the basket last year, and you got to roll with DeMar DeRozan. Although Kendrick Nunn dunk was nice, we got to roll with DeMar DeRozan on this.
Shout out, by the way, to the Heat Instagram where they said Kendrick Nunn posterized Bobby Portis, and then they said we're going to include his signature, and they superimposed Kendrick Nunn's signature on the post, which was awesome.
That's so petty.
All right, miss, traction. Hawks Nets. Kyrie breaks John Collins' ankles here. Oh, hello. Nick, ever seen such a casual ankle breaker?
The guy can do that just about as well as anybody. Steph's got the best handles, George, but Kyrie breaks a hell of a lot of ankles through the year. He's awesome at that move.
Well, I have to disagree with you on that one, Nick. Steph don't have the best handle. Kyrie Irving has the best handle, and that's why we just saw him do what he do. There's no other player that could slice and dice through the lane like that and just finish below the rim, but his handles are on a different level.
Yeah, his handles.
George, Kyrie and Steph at All-Star Weekend. That's what we need.
Yeah, we do need that. Let's run it back to Kyrie's best moves. By the way, shout out to Tim Hardaway, who broke a lot of ankles back in the day. Honorable mention, because it wasn't an actual game, Kyrie on Brandon Knight in the Rising Stars Challenge. Oh, hello. Poor Brandon Knight. He had that DeAndre Jordan thing, too. Remember that? Look at that.
That's what you call yanking.
Yeah. Good Lord, man. Nice shoes, though, Brandon Knight. And Kyrie, for that matter. Look at that. All right, number 5. Kyrie on Thabo Cephalosha back in 2014. This is young Kyrie. More young Kyrie. Hello. Stop. Pop. Nice and easy.
See ya.
Next.
The way that he's able to stop on the dime and still keep that handle is just a beautiful thing to see.
No doubt. Look at it on Tayshaun Prince here.
Wow.
I mean, listen, Tayshaun Prince, one of the greatest defenders we've seen in a generation, right? Like, he was an excellent defender, and he made him look silly there. That doesn't happen very often to Tayshaun Prince.
I mean, he went double behind the back, stopped on the dime, came back between the legs with a pull-up. Oh,
here's another one against another great defender, Avery Bradley, who was a first-team All-Defender at one time. Still an excellent defender. Check that second team.
I mean, George, and that's a great point. Listen, he's doing this against great defenders, elite defenders. He dribbles so low to the ground, I don't know how he's able to keep it on the handle like that.
And Willie Green, Green, who's now a coach for Monty Williams. And this is probably the moment he realized, I need to be a coach.
George, you realize how much work has to go in to make these moves? That's the coolest part to me.
And then
for
against
Kyrie to have all these years worth of moves, it's unbelievable, and it's a ton of work.
And speaking of all those moves and a ton of work, against the entire Spurs team here in 2015, he had 57 in that game. Look at Bellinelli.
I had front row tickets to that game, George. I actually was on the bench that game. Wasn't getting playing time, but I was right there to see that 57 points by Kyrie Irving.
You got a front row seat to that crazy, crazy game. That is wild. All right, Kyrie's nice moves was one of many in the night last night in Brooklyn. The Nets survived the Hawks, and Trae Young had 30 points with a 145-141 win for the Nets. Kyrie and KD combined for 33 in the fourth quarter alone to hold on for that particular win, and the pace was almost too much for Nets coach Steve Nash to handle. Let's take a listen.
As a young coach, it's hard when you can't impact the game the way you're used to impacting it. So, but the guys hung in. That's the number one thing. I mean, you're not always going to win the way we want to win. Holding teams down tonight, we couldn't stop them, but we finally got enough stops to let our offense get going. And I definitely need a beer.
You may need a lot of beers when you're coaching in the NBA, Steve. Get used to that. All right, Perk, who are you more impressed by? The Nets holding on or the Hawks pushing them to the limit?
The Hawks pushing them to the limit. I had the Hawks making the playoffs this year, but I think they're going to be a dangerous out in the Eastern Conference, and I wouldn't be surprised if they make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. Trae Young is unguardable. They have a lot of firepower offensively, and now they have a leader. They're well coached, but they have a leader in playoff Rondo. And once this team continue to keep building and going in the right direction, come playoff time, they are going to be dangerous and they're going to be scary. And no one is going to want to see this young Hawks team.
George, KD and Kyrie are unbelievable. They are so much fun to watch. But I'm looking at these games, and I'm looking at that game last night, and I'm thinking, where the hell is the defense in the league? Why is there nobody playing lockdown defense the way we've seen in years past? Why are all these scores so unbelievably high all the time? So for as much offensive talent as there is, and as fun as Trae Young is to watch play, and KD when he's healthy and rolling like he is, why can't the defense come in, and when's it going to be happening at some point this season?
Yeah, for sure. I, by the way, I'm with Perk on this as far as the Hawks are concerned. It's funny, Perk, because they kind of, again, different makeup. But when you said hard out, right, or tough out in the first round, it reminds me of that Boston team that faced an Atlanta team that got pushed to 7 in the first round. Like, I feel like this team has that kind of upside, that kind of capability, because we didn't know the baby Hawks back then with Josh Smith and Joe Johnson and that particular group. Al Horford, right, was on that team. Jeff Teague. We didn't know what they were going to be. They eventually were a team that got to the Eastern Conference Finals and faced LeBron James and company. But we saw kind of that first iteration that year, and I think this Hawks team can be something like that. Do you agree, Perk?
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. Look, with the additions that they added for us getting Bogdanovich and the growth of Cam Reddish and DeAndre Hunter, and now they have Clint Capella, who's a guy that could grab all the rebounds and block shots, and Collins. Collins is so underrated, and the good thing about Collins is that he's playing for something. He didn't get the contract extension. He has a chip on his shoulder. But I'm going to tell you, Trae Young is a top 5 player right now in the NBA. He cannot be guarded. You talk about Steph Curry, but this guy is Steph Curry 2.0 in my opinion because of the way he's able to facilitate and make plays for others. But it's no other player in the league, probably other than James Harden, that I noticed that teams send traps at him soon as he cross half court or go boxing ones on him. They do it to Steph Curry a little bit, but Trae Young is on a whole nother level right now.
Nick, you obviously cover Steph Curry. What do you see as far as similarities with Trae Young?
They hate those comparisons, first and foremost, George. When you talk to Steph and you talk to Trae Young, they're like, those guys, they are their own players, and they want to make sure the comparisons don't stick, but it's offensively, they can get whatever shot they want whenever they want it. What I would say in watching the first couple of years here of Young's career, Steph is a little bit of a better defender. Trae Young, as great as he is offensively, that's where the real red flag is to me. I don't think Steph gets enough credit for the kind of defender that he has been at times. Trae Young, in order to take that next step, he's got to play defense at a much better pace than we've seen so far.
George, did Nick just say that Steph was a better defender? First of all, let Nick stop it right now, okay? Neither one of those guys are playing any type of defense, okay? Let's nip that in the bud. Now, I understand.
Been much better the last couple of years.
Yeah, because he's not guarding anybody. It's easy to guard somebody who just stand in the corner. Let's come on now. I know you cover the Warriors, but let's keep it real right now. But look, I want to say this. Think about this. John Collins turned down a 4-year extension for $90 million. So that goes to show me that he's betting on himself. And with a guy doing that, turning down $90 million, he has to perform at an elite level or all-star level. And he's doing that thus far. This Hawks team is going to be very, very dangerous come playoff time. Trust me.
Yep, I'm with you, Perk, for sure. All right, coming up, as we wind down 2020, we look back at a few of our most memorable moments from an